thank you for subscribing to So Beautiful magazine. We hope you are going to really enjoy this teaching video that we prepared just for you. Now, what are we going to do on this year's subscriber video? We're going to do the new Magic Madeira applique technique using the wonderful wash-away basting thread, which actually has probably been the most popular technique that we've had in many, many years, and it's very easy. We're also going to do Magic Madeira windows, something really brand new. Now, we have a technique which Louise Baird is going to share with you called passementerie, and it's really interesting and, of course, easy. Now, that's our middle name is easy. We're going to share with you how to do pinless lace diamonds, pinless lace circles, and pinless lace hearts. Very easy and a whole lot of fun. Then Sue Pennington has a truly, truly new technique for you called lace cathedral windows, and just wait until you see what she has developed just for this teaching video. Now, Lindy Goodall will be here later on in the show to share with you some tips on hooping for those of you that love machine embroidery. And at the end of the video, we'll have a catalog review where I will take you through some of the new products and some of the exciting things that are happening at Martha Pullen Company. Don't forget, if you would like a weekly free email newsletter from me, all you need to do is go to our website, www.marthapullen.com, and sign up on the little button that says email newsletter, and I will personally write you a letter every week with a sewing tip and trick, a letter on what's happening in our business and with my family, a scripture of the week, and a recipe of the week. And now let's move on into this video. This beautiful dress is the cover dress for our book, Heirloom Sewing for Jack and Jill. As you can see, there's a beautiful Madeira cutout on the front of the dress. And what I really want to share with you now is this magnificent skirt, which is what I'm going to show you exactly how to do. No one ever believes it when I tell them that making this skirt is truly easy. Okay, let's just take it step by step on our magic boards here. First of all, I'm going to sew together the front and the back of the skirt. I've just serged the side seam. Now here is the blue Madeira piece, which is going on the bottom of the skirt. You notice I have sewn it together too, but I'm going to trace off the Madeira line on half of the skirt only. I'm going to take this piece in a minute and fold it over. Now, the real key to Madeira applique, the easy way by machine, is a wash-away water-soluble basting thread, which you will put either in the bobbin or in the top of your machine, or actually you could put it in both, but it usually isn't necessary. I usually put it in the bobbin. Now, after you've folded your blue part of the skirt, your Madeira part of the skirt, you fold it over, and then I'm going to straight stitch using my water-soluble wash-away thread in the bobbin, regular white thread in the top. I straight stitch along the scallops or whatever your Madeira applique line is. Then I come in and trim away the scallopy part. Then I'm going to turn it right side out and take a little stick and poke up my little points there, turn it right side out, and then here is what it looks like after I've turned it right side out and pressed it. I have those really pretty points. Now, I'm going to take spray starch and wet it very, very wet so it will dissolve the wash-away basting thread, and then dry it very, very dry. Really, really dry. And then after it's wet and dried, and you may need to do that a couple of times, I'm going to come in on this double piece of fabric I've sewn together, and I'm going to go pop, 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 and it will pull open. If it is wet and dried properly, it will pull open. Hear the little pop pops there? Now then, when I have opened it, it is a totally turned down Madeira applique skirt piece. That's all there is to it. Everything is just perfect. It is now ready to be attached to the skirt. I will sew up the other side seam of the skirt and sew up the side seam of the blue piece because it needs to be two circles that are attached. I put the wrong side of the skirt, which is what you see here, to the right side of the Madeira, which is what you see here, and then I attach the bottom, in other words, making the hem of the skirt. Then I flip it to the right side where the madeira is turned up, and I do a madeira applique stitch or a pin stitch. And by the way, I have put a stabilizer behind there. So you have a complete and perfect circle there. You know what? I forgot to tell you. I have a collar to show you how to do also. Hang on just a minute, because the collar is a little bit different technique. First of all, trace off the collar, so you'll have your whole collar and your madeira pattern. Then trace your collar on half of the piece of madeira colored fabric. This one's going to be green, as you can see here. Then fold the fabric in half, as you see I've done here. And the line that makes the madeira applique, we're going to once again, with our wash away basting thread, straight stitch along that scallopy line right there. Come in and trim away the rest of the collar. Then I'm going to turn it right side out, starch and press until completely dry, and you have to have it completely wet first also. Then I'm going to take my collar piece, my madeira piece of the collar. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to pop, 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 and the whole thing opens up. And then I'm going to put the right side of the green to the wrong side of the white color. Now you can just imagine I'm getting ready to straight stitch around here this time to attach the green part of the madeira to the white color. Let me pull this up out of our way here. Then after I turn it right side out, or after I stitch, I'm going to trim it first, then turn it right side out. The collar is basically finished except for doing the pin stitch, and as you can see I have put a stabilizer behind it. You don't necessarily always have to put a stabilizer behind it. If you have spray starched it as stiff as can be, you don't necessarily have to put stabilizer behind it, but I'll tell you a little secret. I think it's good and just a little bit of an extra security measure to put stabilizer behind it. Something kind of funny, if you're going to put your wash away basting thread in the top and in the bobbin, or in the top, be sure you don't go like this to thread it, because you'll have a little bite of wash away basting thread in your mouth. All right, now then, I have already gotten it turned under and it's all finished. I have my wing needle and I have set my madeira applique stitch. One thing I really like to tell people when doing wing needle stitching, be sure you let the machine do the work. Don't push it, don't pull it. This is whether you're doing wing needle entredo or whether you're doing wing needle madeira. Be sure and let the machine do the work, and don't push it and don't pull it. And then when I get up here to the point, of course I'll look to be absolutely sure I'm right at the point. And then when I'm at the point, I will go ahead and turn around. And that is how easy it is to use the wash away basting thread to make these beautiful madeira skirts. And next, I have another madeira technique to share with you called Magic Madeira Windows. The madeira applique windows are really pretty, and you can do a couple of things inside the window. On the front of this beautiful dress, for the cover dress for Jack and Jill, you see the madeira windows inside a madeira strip. And here we have taken lace and put it inside the madeira applique window. Now, on the little matching little brother's suit that's also on the front of the Jack and Jill book, you can look in our madeira windows and see that there is just fabric inside there, and a really good looking tailored button is sewn in the middle. So you can put something inside of your madeira windows or not put something inside. Here's how they're made. Here is my base fabric, and I trace the diamond on the outside of the base fabric, and then I put another piece of fabric behind. In other words, this is the front of the garment, this is a piece of fabric behind it. Either using the water-soluble thread called Extra Vanish or the Wash Away water-soluble basting thread, I straight stitch around that diamond. Then I trim it away and trim the corners, and you can probably imagine what I'm going to do next. I'm going to turn it right side out. So here's what it looks like after I've turned it. Now I've got to detach this piece of fabric behind here. So once again, since I've used wash away basting thread, I'm going to wet it very, very wet and iron it very, very dry. And then once again, after it's very, very dry, I'm going to go pop, 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 and it's going to all pull away, and then I can remove this extra piece of fabric, and then I have that pretty little window all ready to go. Next, I'm going to put my whole piece of fabric in behind there, the base fabric of the garment, put it in behind there, and zigzag around it, and therefore I have my little Madeira window. Now, I'm going to come over here and share with you that you can use the Madeira applique stitch to stitch this little window down, or you can just use a zigzag to stitch it down. Let me just share with you, this time I'm just going to use a little zigzag to baste it down. Well, it isn't basting it down, I'm using the zigzag to go all the way around it. And now then, I'm going to turn my corner, use the needle down position. You know, we always do that, nearly always in heirloom sewing. And I'm simply using a zigzag to stitch down the little piece or the fabric that goes behind my little Madeira window. And now we have a brand new technique for you with kind of a funny name. It's called passementerie. I kind of have to work on pronouncing that. Looks like passementerie actually, but it's passementerie, and Louise Baird is going to share with you this technique. Passementerie is a very fancy word for what I would normally call couching. It is absolutely a beautiful technique where braids and stitches, but mainly where braids are stitched down. This wonderful little pink jacket shows you how stylish it is. Now, it's really very easy to do. You trace off your design, as we have on this beautiful gold silk dupioni pillow. You trace off your design, center it, and make it so you know where the center is. Then take your braid and simply stitch along those lines. Now then, there's several things you can do to do your passementerie. This is a gold braid, kind of a round braid, a flat braid, and this braid is stitched on seam sew braid, and Louise will tell you how she did that in a minute. And this one is just sort of a ribbon braid. And now then, my very dear friend and business colleague, Louise Baird, is going to share with you exactly how you do this fancy technique. Now, let's see, Louise, is it passementerie? Passementerie. Louise, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. Glad to be here. With passementerie, you are actually couching, like Martha said, a braid on a piece of fabric. And here I have my serger braid that I made with I'm not sure what this is called. Pearl Crown Rayon is what it's called. I put it in my upper and lower looper in my sewing machine on my serger, and then did the braid on the serger, and then trimmed away the excess tricot that's part of the seams grate. Okay, and this is the other braid. This is a flat braid that was used on the sample at the board. And this is actually a bias tube that you can purchase or make your own bias tube like this. And then this is a round braid. So it's really just any type of braid that you want. On the sample at the board, we did use, or I did actually trace off my design on my own. And actually, when I trace it, you can use either a template, like this is a template, and a quilting type template, and you would just follow the lines just like that, just to get your design. If this is too small, you can always use a machine to enlarge your design, to get a bigger design, because if you use a fairly thick braid, you generally need to use a larger design to it. But in all honesty, I tend to like not to have to trace my pattern if I'm going to do a stippling type stitch. Usually as I start to sew, my stitch length can be either a straight stitch or a zigzag, and I'll guide the design, or rather my fabric, with one hand and have my needle down always on, lift and pivot just as ordinary as I go along. Like I was saying earlier, I prefer not to have a design, because when I do have a design, I try so hard to stick to that design that I end up getting frustrated. So with this, just kind of goes down. I use either a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch, and most of the time I would use an invisible thread. The black cord, the black and gold cord, I would use the smoke invisible thread on, whereas if it was a light colored braid, then I would use more of the clear one. I also put a stabilizer underneath that will help me to keep everything flat when I'm finished.
And did you use a KK2000 to attach?
Yes, I always use a
KK2000. Louise, that is so beautiful. And here is this finished pillow. And how long did you say it took you to do
It only took about 30 to 45 minutes to do
Oh my goodness, it's not only wonderful and beautiful, it's fast and easy. Now say it one more time for me.
Passementerie?
Passementerie.
No, passementerie.
Passementerie. I think we decided, we looked at it in the dictionary. Anyway, you call it whatever you want to, but it's beautiful. And next we have some pinless lace shaping for you. It is always so much fun to have brand new techniques for you, our so beautiful subscribers. The first of these techniques is pinless lace diamonds. On this wonderful pajama top from the lovely lingerie book, and by the way, this book, the patterns do go from 6 to 28. See these beautiful diamonds on the sleeves, stitched down with a pin stitch? And then on the pajama pants, they're just as pretty as the pajama bottoms. I'm telling you, I've had more people just rave about these pajamas. Is that the prettiest pajama leg you ever looked at in your life? It almost looks like Greta Garbo ought to be wearing it in a movies of the 30s. Anyway, we can do these diamonds now a pinless way. This is one of the magnificent dresses from the Jack and Jill book. Now the diamond up here is really beautiful. And what is that little embroidery in the middle? Well, you could do hand embroidery, but we actually just cut up a placemat. Or you can take a tablecloth. Now come on down and look at the skirt of this dress. See how pretty those little diamonds are? Each one of them has a little bit different embroidery. Another idea for this dress for Jack and Jill would be if you have some handkerchiefs. Maybe you have some of your mother's or your grandmother's handkerchiefs. You know, we can't leave out Jack and the Jack and Jill. This is a cute little, very fancy little boy's suit. What I really love about this is the pinless lace diamonds, but we did double needle pin tucks on the collar and then did the pinless lace diamonds right on top of those double needle pin tucks, which meant that we already had something in the middle, and actually all we did here was just put the diamonds. Now for our new book, Sewing for the Precious Baby, this little day gown is so sweet. It has the feather stitching and the pinless diamond in the middle. And then we've used a combination of pinless diamonds down here on the skirt of this little flannel day gown, Swiss flannel day gown. We've gone over and under and over and under to combine 3 diamonds together. Now let's see how we do the pinless diamonds. As always, you're going to draw the diamond on with the miter lines. That's very, very important. Now on pinless diamonds, people all in the world you do is just zigzag around it. Now did you notice I did not fold in my miter? I'm simply going to zigzag around it, zigzag around it. Now when I come to the bottom here, and I'll just hold it, by the way, I do have tearaway stabilizer on the back. Before I come to the bottom, I am going to turn that miter under before I finish doing my sewing. And then, of course, I chop off the tails. Do not forget to put your stabilizer underneath it before you do the pinless. Now, when you get your diamond sewn all the way around, I take my shish kebab stick and come in here and mash until I can just mash in the folds there, the miters. And I do the same all the way around. As always on the diamond lace shaping, or as nearly always, I cut the fabric from behind the diamonds, and then if you will just see how pretty this diamond is. A lot of times people ask me, Martha, what do you do with those miters after you cut the fabric away? Well, what I usually do is I zigzag over the top of those miters and then trim away that little dart that was folded in. So that's exactly what I do over the miters. I happen to think it's prettier if you go ahead and zigzag it. Now come on over here to the sewing machine and let me share with you just how easy it is to do the pinless diamonds. All right, now this time on this one over here, I have straight stitched it down. You can straight stitch, you can zigzag, you can pin stitch, and a lot of people do all of those on pin. You see the miters are not folded in though. All right, I'm going to straight stitch all the way around here. Now let me give you one more little, after I stitch to about, an inch away, then I'm going to stop, flip this lace back exactly the way you do on pin diamonds, flip it back, go ahead and get my whole miter in, and then go ahead and just straight stitch or zigzag right over that, chop it off. Then I go back in and I fold in my miters, and you have to just get in there and play with it. And then you press it, and then you don't have to do anything, but just go ahead and press it, and then you're ready to sew the inside. That's step number 1. This one I have shown you, and I do have those miter lines drawn in there, which is always good to have those miter lines. Then you really know where it's supposed to line up exactly. And after I press it, I'm then ready to go in and stitch the inside. one of the things I really like to tell our viewers about is I put the KK2000 temporary spray adhesive on nearly everything now, but mainly I really do spray it before I put the stabilizer, before I put the fabric on top of the stabilizer. For pinless lace shaping, it really does help to have this stuff, to have it kind of glued together. Okay, now let's go in here. I am now to a curve, and I'm going to show you that many people just go ahead and they do their wing needle entredot, which is what we've started here. We sent out a Martha's Gift of the Month, and I know a lot of you do have sewing machine dealers that belong to Martha's Gift of the Month Club. We sent out instruction on pinless lace hearts. Well, I thought probably most of the people would have already done, lace-shaped hearts, and I was out in Puyallup, Washington, doing a big show, and I said, now do your pinned hearts first before you do your pinless, and one little girl raised her hand out in the audience, a young mother that was so excited about heirloom sewing, and she said, Martha, she said, my dealer belongs to your Gift of the Month Club, and I just followed those instructions, and I did it pinless and stitched it down with wing needle entredot on the very first time. And I said, oh, gulp. And I said, well, how did you like it? She said, oh, it was so easy. So, maybe you don't need to do the pinning kind first. Now, when I get to a corner, I simply leave my needle in, and I flip around, and I'm not going to fold my miters in now. I'm just going to simply flip around, take my shish kebab stick, pin it and poke it a little bit, lower that presser foot, and start down the other side. You remember, I'm going to pin in my miters after I do all this pinless lace shaping, and yes, it certainly is possible and not really a problem to go ahead and do your wing needle work as you go around the very first time. Listen, just let me tell you about that young mother out in Washington State that told me that absolutely she did not intend to do anything other than do her wing needle entredot as I'm doing here on the first go round for her pinless hearts. And now then, if you'll look one more time, after I finish stitching the outside and the inside, and by the way, you can do this with just a zigzag. You do not have to have a machine that does all these fancy stitches to do any kind of heirloom sewing. Then you trim away the fabric from behind, as you can see, the dark blue showing through. After you trim it, go back and zigzag the miters, trim away the inside point, and there you have the pinless lace diamonds. And next, I have pinless lace circles for you. Pinless lace circles are easy also. Let me share with you this beautiful little heirloom party dress in about a size 2 with a machine embroidered bow at the top, but come on down to the bottom to see how pretty and how fancy and how fun this little dress is. By the way, this little dress pattern is in our new book, Sewing for Precious Babies. Let's have some more circles, which is the same principle I'm going to share with you. This beautiful Beverly Sheldrick doll quilt is found in our book, Heirloom Sewing for the Three Best Friends. It does fit a bed that fits an 18-inch doll. Isn't that pretty? The circular lace, even though that's an oval, not a circle, you can do this with pinless lace shaping also. Now, one of the dresses from our Jack and Jill book, it really isn't pinless circles, but it's the same principle. The waves, it's pinless waves, also used with machine embroidery. Down here on the skirt, there are just all kinds of waves that go around this skirt, and these absolutely can be done pinless with the technique I'm about to show you right now. Okay. Now, first of all, you draw your circle. Let me get my little shish kebab stick here. Draw your circle. Then you simply go around. Oh, by the way, you do a little KK2000 to spray on your stabilizer. That's real critical that you spray it on. I think it's critical. Anyway, you just zigzag the lace around. Now then, after you come over here and zigzag the lace around, it will not, it will have kind of sticking up around. Well, once again, we pull the strings on the lace to make it lay down. Pull the string on this side, pull the built-in gathering thread on this side. Now, what do you do here at this point? You simply take the lace tail that comes over, fold it back, put it down, and over here you can see we have zigzagged the outside, zigzagged the inside, cut away the fabric from behind, go back and zigzag over that miter. Come on over to the sewing machine and let's do this in live action. Okay, once again, let's go through the steps. Draw the circle, get your lace, and I use the wonderful sulky KK2000. I think my husband accuses me of KK2000ing everything. But anyway, let's put this down. I love it. It will hold it, and it just goes away. All right, I'm going to get my lace circle ready. Then this version shows after I have stitched it down just with a straight stitch or a zigzag. I pull the strings, the gathering threads, I pull these from this side over here to make it lay down, and then I pull this side also at the bottom, and notice I do not let my fingers run up and around. I just simply pull and it lays down perfectly. I don't have to kind of scooch it around like this. That's sort of a natural tendency to do. I fold it under, and here I'm going to show you all in the world you do. Get your little shish kebab stick. I'm just going to zigzag this, and I kind of hold my shish kebab stick out here. You just simply turn it, go slowly. You can hold your shish kebab stick out about 1 inch in front so you can have it straight, and you know where, well, not straight in a circle, but so you can have it placed correctly. I've got my stabilizer KK2000 to it. I'm going to go around like this. And that's absolutely all there is to it. Oh, it saves so much time to do pinless lace shaping. And really, it's kind of easy. It's not any big deal. I don't know why we didn't think of it earlier, but that's all right. I guess we always have to have new techniques, don't we? Anyway, over here we see that it has been zigzagged on the outside and the inside. And after I cut away the fabric from behind, this is the little joining point. I will go back and zigzag over that, and I'm absolutely finished. And it truly is easy to do pinless lace shaping. And now I'm going to demonstrate how to do a pinless lace-shaped heart. Pinless lace hearts are very easy to do. This was one of the projects that went out to the dealers that belong to our Martha's Gift of the Month Club. And I gave the instructions on making the heart a pinless heart method. Well, I kind of thought that most people that would do this would have done lace-shaped hearts. Well, come to find out, most people had not done a lace-shaped heart. They found it very easy to do pinless hearts. And by the way, this was the free embroidery design that goes along with Martha's Gift of the Month. We have a different project every month. Anyway, pinless lace hearts are not that complicated. This is one of the dresses with a beautiful heart on the collar that is found in our Jack and Jill book. This is one of the prettiest collars I think I've ever seen. What I really want to show you, though, is the skirt. I just love the hearts on this skirt. How pretty can you get? Hearts upside down, hearts right side up. And by the way, if you're going to do this many hearts, it really would be a good idea to do pinless hearts. And once again, this dress is in our Heirloom Sewing for Jack and Jill. Our new book, Sewing for the Precious Baby, this is a little heart diaper shirt. So cute with this feather stitch around the hearts and feather stitch inside the hearts. And of course, for a diaper shirt, you have to have a little panty to go with it. And this is that wonderful double-seated panty. And I have to show you, speaking of what's on the double seat, look at the little heart on the back of the panty. And this one is in our book, Sewing for Precious Babies. This is one of the most beloved doll dresses that we've ever had on Martha's Sewing Room. People have adored this skirt. The combination of the hearts and the scallops is a really nice one to do, and it makes it so much faster when we do pinless hearts. Now, this is another one of our projects that was the free project for Martha's Gift of the Month Club. It's a beautiful heart table runner with beautiful, beautiful cutwork embroidery in the middle. This was your free embroidery design for the month. For those of you that have a dealer that does belong to Martha's Gift of the Month Club, these were your free embroidery designs along with your project, your heart. Now then, this is the quilt that's on the series, the 1200 and 1300 series, 1300 and 1400 series of Martha's Sewing Room. And for those of you that get the television show, you're going to enjoy making this quilt with me also. Now let's make lace hearts, pinless hearts. First of all, you trace the heart. As always, you trace off your lace shape. Then, this is very important. You start by, oh, this is even more important. You go ahead and KK2000 your stabilizer behind your fabric. Now, start at the top of pinless hearts and zigzag all the way around. Just come all the way back up. After you come to the center, of course, you're going to have to pull the strings, make the heart lay down on both sides as you do on your regular heart lace shaping. Then we're going to come over and zigzag the inside after we finish the outside. That's pretty easy to do. And then after we finish the whole heart, we'll come back in and zigzag the inside of the miters. Come on over to the sewing machine with me and we'll run over those steps one more time and I'll show you how easy it is to do pinless hearts. Once again, you go ahead and trace off the heart shape, and I always use this KK2000. I love it. And I go ahead, just a tiny little bit will do. I mean just a touch. Then I am ready to come over to my sewing machine. I think I'll just use a pin stitch for you this time. We're going to have a pin stitch with a wing needle, and I'm also going to use my shish kebab stick. I'll tell you that KK2000 on the bottom really does help hold the stabilizer. It helps hold the heart, and it really isn't that big a deal to do these lace shapes pinless. Always remember to start at the top on the hearts though, because it's easier to turn an outside curve as we're coming right now into an outside curve. You see, it's a lot easier to turn an outside curve than it is to turn an inside curve, and that is the reason that on pinless we do start on the outside. Okay, I just turn her. I don't worry about that miter yet. The miter is going to be done later. All I'm going to do now is I'm doing just a pretty pin stitch. It really is easy. When we first started trying something brand new like the pinless lace shaping, I thought, oh my, this is going to be difficult. Well, I found out it was not difficult, and can you even think about how much time you're going to save by making pinless hearts rather than pinned hearts? Okay, after you finish sewing around your heart, then it is time to come in and come to the top. Now here's something real important. When you're sewing and you get to about an inch of where the top, where you meet at the top, stop, flip under the miter, and then finish sewing the top. Now you're going to say, well, Martha, we've got to pull those strings and get that heart trouble fixed. Yes, we do. I flipped under the miter though and sewn perfectly into the miter. Then after you do that, you can open it back up again, find the string that makes a scallop on the top, or a scallop, whichever way you pronounce it, on one side, pull one side of the heart, then come in and pull the gathering thread on the other side of the heart. See, it lays down just perfectly, so easy. Then I go back in, and once again, I fold that miter in. Then I'm ready to zigzag or sew the inside. I'll come all the way in here and sew all the way down, and then I will chop off the tails. After I finish zigzagging the outside and the inside, I will go in behind and trim the fabric from behind. You can see here I've trimmed the fabric from behind the heart. I trim it all the way around, and then what do you do with these miters? My preference is to come in at that time then and zigzag over the miters, zigzag and zigzag, and then you can either cut away that little dart that you folded in on the miter, or you can leave the little dart in there. I think I still have the dart in the bottom. I do. That little dart right there, you can leave it in, or you can cut it away after you zigzag it. Now don't forget, you start at the top when doing pinless hearts. You start your stitching at the top, you come all the way around, and you end at the top. And that's how easy it is to make pinless lace hearts. And next I have a very special guest, our friend, my friend, and your friend from So Beautiful magazine, and she teaches at Martha Pullen schools, has for many years, Sue Pennington. Sue has a brand new technique for you, really brand new and wonderful, called lace cathedral windows. Just wait until you see what Sue Pennington has developed for you. Using her beautiful dress pattern from her book, Easy Elegance, which, by the way, is available from Martha Pullen Company. We have just reprinted this book. She has used the beautiful Italian Pima and the wonderful antique laces, which we also have at Martha Pullen Company. But the cathedral lace technique is absolutely fabulous. Do you see the antique lace peeking out from behind these beautiful cathedral windows? absolutely the first time this has ever been done in heirloom sewing, and of course we can always depend upon Sue to do something that no one else has ever done before. This is also another one of the patterns out of our new book, Sewing for the Precious Baby, and it has the cathedral windows down the front of this beautiful lavender day gown. What a beautiful technique. The cathedral windows and the little stitching that goes out. I think Sue goes around and over, so I'll play serpentine games coming down here showing you too. Absolutely magnificent, and that is on the lavender Nalona. All right, here is how you do the serpentine windows, I mean the cathedral windows. Okay, I have two strips of bias stitched right down the middle. Now, when you open those bias pieces up, I'm going to open them this way, where the row of stitching, which now becomes a basting row, is right in the middle. Then here I have opened it up and pressed it. I then take a strip of lace insertion and I sew it not through both of those layers of bias, but just attach it to one of those layers of bias, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Not sew through two layers of bias, but just sew through one layer of the bias. Now, in order to make a dress, I have to put an extension fabric. In other words, this is for the bodice or whatever, or for a pillow, and so I'm going to stitch it on, stitching it down through both layers, and now I flip it over. In other words, this is what we just did, and now I flip it to the front. I'm going to do a beautiful decorative stitch where both of those rows of stitching attach the extra fabric. Then I mark intervals here, 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 and put a bar tack here, 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 here. Now I pull out the basting thread now, and watch how those cathedral windows are formed. This is one already opened. I pulled out the basting thread, and then I simply open it, and there is the cathedral window. I open it and open it, there's the cathedral window. I open it and open it, there's the cathedral window, and then Sue does a serpentine stitch down the side. I've invited Sue Pennington to be here with us today for her to show you in person her wonderful cathedral windows. Sue, thank you so much for coming to be on the video.
Thank you, Martha. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll go through the technique again. I start out with two wide bias strips of fabric, and I'll use a long straight stitch to stitch right down the center of those two strips. Then press those pieces open as you would a seam. The piece of lace needs to be centered over the seam line. So I like to use a water-soluble fabric glue and use just a tiny bit of glue over the seam line, and then center the lace right over top of the seam line and let it dry before you stitch. The next step is to zigzag through one layer only of the fabric right along the heading of the lace. See how I fold back the underside of the fabric? I'll stitch along this side, and then I'll open the fabric up and stitch along this side. This piece of fabric already has the lace stitched on it, and this is the wrong side of the strip of fabric which will be the cathedral windows. So I place it right side to right side on the extensions of fabric which will form the bodice. And I'll straight stitch along here, trim it, and zigzag it to finish. The back of this piece is what that looks like. You can see the seam right along here that's been stitched and zigzagged. On the right side then, I press it, and at marked intervals, use a bar tack. I use the built-in button stitching stitch at each place, or you can just use a zigzag with a stitch length of 0 and stitch back and forth several times to keep that in place. I like to do a decorative satin stitch over that seam line. It helps stabilize it, and it also hides the seam allowance underneath. I use little football shapes here. Scallops and circles, ovals would look nice also. I then pull out that basting thread and I can start opening my windows. Again, I like to use the water-soluble fabric glue. And I'll put just a touch of glue at the center of the opening, and I do one side at a time. So I'll, at the center of the slit there, I fold open the lip of the cathedral window, or eyeball, because they look more like eyeballs than anything else to me.
I love this.
And press it with an iron just a little. If you use just a tiny bit of glue, you won't get it on your iron, and it holds it open very nicely. Again, pull open one side of it and press that open. I would do all of one side, then turn my fabric around and glue and press open the other side and have all my windows. On my next sample, I have glued and pressed open all of the windows, and it's time to straight stitch. I will straight stitch using a very, very short stitch length, about 1.5. And surprisingly, I need to use a stabilizer under this. I don't like to use tearaway stabilizers under too many things because I don't like tearing it away. But stitching through the bias on these sharp curves is kind of difficult without a stabilizer. So I'm going to stitch this. And I also want to say that I don't stitch each eyeball separately. I start at one end and do S curves and stitch down, turn around and stitch back up. Stitch very close to the edge. And then sometimes it's easier to just stop and pivot. At the point between where it's bar tacked, continue on stitching around the next curve. Then the lids of your eyeballs are stitched in place. Sorry, Martha.
I love it. We've actually been I have to tell all of you so beautiful readers, we have been calling this eyeball techniques, but we had to be more sophisticated on the television show, didn't we? So.
Right. So this is the finished product with the stitching all done and any markings washed out.
So this is absolutely incredible. Of course, we always depend on you for wonderful things, and thank you for all that you contribute to So Beautiful magazine.
Thank you for letting me have a lot of fun.
People just love it. And isn't this brand new? All right, next we have our dear friend Lindy Goodall, who is going to be teaching you some tips on hooping. It is my pleasure to welcome my good friend, Lindy Goodall from Cactus Punch. Lindy, thank you for being with us today. Tell our So Beautiful readers some tips and tricks you would like to share.
Thank you, Martha. These are some tips and tricks about hooping for your embroidery machine, and also some backing tips. I have a whole bevy of bibs here. Bibs make a great way to test out different designs and different backings. It's really important for you to test your designs and to understand what fabrics need what kind of backings. For instance, these designs are done on linen, and I can use a cutaway on a tearaway on these. I also like to use a wash-away tearaway because you can see that these are fairly sheer, and I want the backing to go away when I'm done. Here's some other bibs that we've used. These are good candidates for tearaway because we're working on a woven fabric, very stable, and we don't have outlines that we have to worry about matching up, so we can use a medium weight tearaway on these. Now these bibs are interesting because we need to also consider our design. And for example, if you look at this snowman, you can see that he's got some nice shading through here. But when I sew him on this fabric, which is a towel, and it's a green and white stripe, you can see that the stripes bleed through. And we could use a topping on here, but already our design is fairly thick because on this one I've used a sticky product, and this one I've used a cutaway. Now on the cutaway, I used a very soft cutaway, and you can see that it's very soft and drapey, and in fact I have not even cut it away. It's still in the entire bib back here. And this bib, even though it has the cutaway in here, is very soft. We often think of cutaways as being quite stiff. You can see that this one has a lot of body in it, and this bib, since I used the sticky, it's still in there and it has quite a lot of body, a little more body than I'd like to have. Now this bib, I'm going to turn it over so you can see the back, and you can see that there's no backing in here. That's because this is a low density design, it's a low impact design, and because of that,
and this is a very stable fabric, I can get away with no backing whatsoever. Here are some other low-impact designs. Quilting designs often don't need any backing, particularly if you're sewing on a stable fabric. This is an unstable fabric. This is jersey knit. And if I pull on this, you can see that it stretches. It's just like a t-shirt. Now I've lined the back with terry cloth, but the embroidery only goes through the t-shirt. And so I need to stabilize this so that it doesn't stretch. Once again, I use the soft and sheer. This is a sulky product, and it gives that lightweight feel so that I have a nice soft bib without the stiffness. On this towel, or this bib, which is sewn on terry cloth, you can see in a couple places where I have the nap poking up back through the towel. And you don't really want that. I sewed part of this design without topping, and for the topping, I used a clear melt-away product. And this just lays over the design. You sew it down, and then you tear it away. Now, you can see where I still even have little bits of it up in here. I did sew it underneath this part, and now these letters sit on top of my design rather than being trapped in the fabric. Denim is a nice stable fabric to sew on. One thing you need to know about is that it can be very dense, so I like to do heavy embroideries like this on a medium weight fabric. Here we have some wonderful little bibs. These bibs were made from a doily. And if you look at the doily, you'll see that with the shape of my hoop, it doesn't fit in there very well. So I need to know some tricks about getting this into the hoop. And what I like is to use a hooping aid. This is called the Embroiderer's Friend, and I've actually taped down my design, and I've cut a hole in my sticky. I like this. I think you should have power tools for your sewing room. And this is one of mine. I'm going to mention another one that's a favorite of mine. I've cut a hole in the sticky, the same area as my design, so that when I position my doily on here and stick it down, I can sew in here. The sticky holds my doily. I'm not going to have any trapped in my fabric when I'm done. My other favorite power tool is the Martha Pullen thread stand. And the reason I like this is because I can line up all of my colors in the order that I'm going to sew. Keeps me more efficient. I have less thread breakage, and it's wonderful for metallic threads.
You know, Lindy, thank you so much for sharing all these tricks. And the Martha Pullen thread stand, which we have really enjoyed having our name associated with, has been a real bestseller for people who love machine embroidery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spools. And again, the thread breakage factor, I think so many people have told me that's another reason they love it too. Lindy, thank you so much for being here with us for our So Beautiful video. Thank you for your fabulous digitizing that you do, not only for Cactus Punch, but also for Martha Pullen. And it's been a pleasure having you here with us today. And now I'd like to take you on a review or a preview, or actually kind of a walk through the catalog of Martha Pullen Company. I want to thank every one of you for subscribing to So Beautiful magazine, a magazine that we had a dream of creating and started in 1987. And we'd like to thank you for the success of allowing us to bring the magazine to you. We'd like to take you on a little tour of Martha Pullen Company, a little live tour of our catalog, which, by the way, if you don't have one of these catalogs, and we try to send our So Beautiful subscribers 2 a year, but if you don't have one, you can call the 800 number and get one. I would like to first of all tell you about our free email newsletter. I send a personal letter every week, and if you would like to get one of these, if you will please go to our website, www.marthapullen.com, and just sign up. I'll be glad to send you every week a free email newsletter. Now, we have been doing our School of Art Fashion in Huntsville, Alabama for 18 years. I'd like to give you the dates. And by the way, you also get the brochure, and the curriculum will be in So Beautiful magazine. So don't worry, we'll get you information about the classes. Our dates, our upcoming dates are February 5th through the 11th, 2001, and July 23rd through 29th, 2001. We also have a wonderful, wonderful Martha's Sewing Market that we're doing currently in 3 parts of the United States. My dates for this next year are Pomona, California, October 20th through 22nd, 2000. Orlando, Florida at the Tupperware Center, January 25th through 27th, 2001. And Arlington, Texas, that's the Dallas area, June 20th through 23rd, 2001. And Martha's Sewing Markets are just more fun than a barrel of monkeys. We have over 50 classes a day, and after you pay your low admission fee of $15 a day, all of your classes and your evening activities are free. We also have something that's new and exciting. If you'd like to start your own teaching businesses, we're offering Martha Pullen licensed teachers, and we work right now with the sewing machine companies. We've had one for Pfaff, we've had for Viking, for Bernina, and for Janome, and we're looking forward to having these licensings for other companies too. If you'd like to talk about becoming a Martha Pullen licensed teacher, then you need to call Kathy McMakin or me, and we'll certainly get you the details. We have a brand new avenue of our business. We're taking people on trips, on Martha's flea market tours of London, and we have a side trip to Paris planned. We'll get you the dates. Our first one is in November of 2000, but right now that one's filled, but we're going to have some more dates, and I'm going to personally take you to Europe. Joe and I are going to personally take you to Europe. Our gift of the month has been really exciting. Let me show you a couple of the projects. These projects are not available to purchase. They are free, well, maybe a $2 a month, only from dealers who are offering Martha's Gift of the Month. This is one of the months, this beautiful pillow project and this beautiful free machine embroidery design. This was one of the months this year. Let me show you another one. This was one of my very favorites. This is a beautiful picture frame, and you got the machine embroidery design, which fits all sewing machines, plus the directions on how to make this beautiful picture, only available from your local dealer. Now, if your dealer does not have Martha's Gift of the Month, now is the time to ask your dealer to call Martha Pullen Company and talk to Kathy McMakin or Diane Bradshaw and find out about how that dealer can offer these wonderful projects and this free machine embroidery to you free, well, for $2 every single month. We are so thrilled about our new silk collection. We have bought the most gorgeous silk dupioni, this beautiful silk organza, which has the little lines. It almost looks like gimp work on it. We have absolutely bought the most beautiful collection of silks and silk dupionis, silk stripes, silk gingham. Oh, you just won't believe the things that we have coming in the silk dupioni and the silk line for you. And you know, of course, we've always had our wonderful linens and linen blends, which are a little less expensive. Our Swiss Nylona, the Swiss batiste. We also have other alternatives which are wonderful to the Swiss batiste, which the Victorian batiste, as well as the Martha's Favorite batiste, and they're really beautiful too. All right, let me show you some other things which we think you'll be excited about. Our heirloom sewing for Jack and Jill. I have to tell you, we worked on this book about 7 years. I guess you can call us slow learners. But this book has over 400 pages, plus a huge pattern envelope with some of the cutest things for boys and girls. Our little girls' patterns run up to size 16 on those where it's appropriate, and little boys' patterns, I think it's up to size 6. But a beautiful book and wonderful pattern envelope to go with it. Almost everything you'd ever need, to tell you the truth, in sewing for a little boy or a little girl. We have a wonderful collection of dolls from the Gotz Company in Germany. The Gutz Company is really how it's pronounced. We have the 3 best friends, these beautiful 13-inch dolls, and Lily, another best friend. And let me share with you Cecil Elizabeth. She is a gorgeous doll. She's 18 inches tall. She's the size of other very popular 18-inch dolls, and from the same German company. And by the way, Cecil Elizabeth is signed and numbered, as are all of our dolls from the Gutz Company. Cecil is signed and numbered by Joanna and me, and by the way, we have new Dress Me dolls, which are coming. They're going to be exactly the same body as Cecil Elizabeth, without a dress, and they're going to sell for $79, and you're going to have a doll dress book to go with it, so you can, and by the way, they'll be signed and numbered by me also. Quite a bargain, we think. We have a number of embroidery cards, embroidery discs that fit all sewing machines. We have Mommy's Helpers, which I have a big secret. We have fabric, hopefully being made to match Mommy's Helpers, quilting fabric. You're going to love it. We also have Noah's Ark, and we also have Noah's Ark, and we have Heirloom Classics 1. Now let me show you a few of the other things that we have. One of the things we're really excited about is the Dr. Joe pleater. It's a wonderful pleater with a place to hold your thread, and it's really a fabulous pleater. And you know what? Let me just pick up this adorable little doll if I can get her. I think she's hooked in the pleater. We have a new book called Home Decorating and Crafts, which is available at a wonderful price. I think it's $12.99, and this is one of the 30 projects in the Home Decorating and Crafts book. Now then, we have another new book called Martha's Doll Dressing that fits 18-inch dolls, 13-inch dolls. This book, Lovely Lingerie, is a wonderful, wonderful new book with all kinds of patterns for women. It also is in the $19.95 price range. We have baby beauty pins and little children's jewelry. This is a new, what we call 5-pack. It has 5 videos in it. They're the former So Beautiful videos. And you know what? I'd like for you just to take a little quick look at the Mommy's Helpers. This has been our absolute bestseller. It's embroidery discs that go along with they can be used. They can be used on every sewing machine which has an embroidery unit. And if you move over just a little bit past the Mommy's Helpers, you'll also see some of our heirloom classics. Now, we also, in addition to having subscriptions to So Beautiful magazine, we offer subscriptions to the Beautiful Embroidery and Cross Stitch from Australia, and also the Machine Embroidery magazine from Australia. And right above here, you'll see paper dolls and heirloom tissue paper and a needle pack, the wonderful wash-away basting thread, as well as the puff iron, which is wonderful for sewing, for ironing little girls' sleeves. Now, I also have some other beautiful things over here, and what I'd really like to share with you, we have a tremendous collection of the French laces. We always have carried a lovely collection of French laces. And one of the other things, there are 2 things I really want to show you here. We now have the Swiss embroideries again at a very reasonable price. This beautiful white bow has little pink dots and little green leaves, and we also have a collar piece to go along with it. This is from Switzerland. This is the real McCoy. And another real McCoy made in the USA for christening dresses and communion dresses are the Trinity and the Cross. And then we have another pattern which just has the cross on it, which people have. And by the way, these are the Victorian embroideries, which are much less expensive. I'm going to move over just a little bit so you can have a big look at the Jack and Jill patterns, at our Noah's Ark quilt. These are our Noah's Ark embroideries. And the beautiful fabrics. We have a really incredible collection of fabrics, laces, and batiste. And right here are some of the beautiful lingerie pieces, the robes. And by the way, all of our women's patterns are in size 6 to size 28. Thank you so much for subscribing to So Beautiful magazine. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this video. If you would like a weekly free email newsletter from me, personally from me, don't forget to go to www.marthapullen.com and sign up. Once again, thank you so much for all you do for us, and may God bless each of you until we meet again, and I hope that will be very soon.